Happy Tuesday. I was a little tense there for a second. Hi, Rodney.
How's it going?
It's better now. My blood pressure's dropping. My name is Andy Elliott. I'm a real estate agent, realtor here in Williamson County. I am with Rodney Wilds, who is a loan officer with First Trust, also in Williamson County. If you have questions, concerns, or anything like that, you can feel free to text, email, or call us. Our number will be in the description box below and the comments below. What's new, man?
It's a little disappointing. The solar ellipse came and gone with like just a little bitty piece of pie of the moon or something. I mean, it was kind of, I expected 3 earthquakes, some kind of 85 people getting married down here. I don't know.
I was thinking some sort of hippie types would be running nude through the streets, but that didn't happen where I live.
No, I actually had to walk outside during it. I was like, well, I feel like I'm missing something. So I just walked outside of the building, walked right back in. I was like, well, I didn't miss much.
I did a time lapse on it, not looking at the sun because I didn't want to ruin my gear, but I did a time lapse overlooking the lake, thinking, how cool would that be to see the effect?
Yeah.
It was, negligible. Doesn't even rise to the level of, it was just a cloud. A cloud went by. Yeah.
That's funny, yeah.
Oh my gosh. Do we have, I'm just checking on your shared screen. Checking on that.
I've got it up.
There is so much
sharing here. Let me see here. Let me go back to sharing here.
I was just going to say there is so much stuff going on these days, and it's going to continue to listen. I am saying, and I think everybody that knows me, I am a positive person. Rodney knows me as a positive person. Sometimes, tough things happen. But I'll tell you that the test that I'm a positive person is I've been in real estate 19 years. And I'm still doing it. I'm a positive person, I'm telling you.
Yes.
But the thing how we like to start our little show here before we have our discussion, which is, we got stuff to talk about. We're going to start with this. Love that. Hi, Angie. Couldn't hear. I was muted for a second. Hi, Angie. Glad you're here.
All right. We ready to go this thing?
We're ready. Rock and roll.
Let's look at this. This is on a 3-month chart right here. You can see February, March, and April, maybe I guess a little bit further back. But as you can see, green is good. Red is bad. Red is when they're paying less money for a mortgage-backed security, means the rates are going up. And you can see the L's, that's just, it's advising us to lock. So we've had several periods here from February 1 all the way to April the 4th there that advise us on locking. But today we see a little bit of improvement. You see here the green candlestick there. I'll scroll up to the top, and it's for the day we're 21 basis points for the better. And now look, this is a 6% mortgage-backed security. So
okay.
So you always throw in whatever the what is our trending rate today? Somewhere around 7 for the
707 is what I last saw moments ago.
Right. So we got, 707's the, kind of a standard going rate that when they put that out. So.
Yep. Now, are we done with that slide? Are we done with that?
We are.
Okay. Let's do this. 706 is what I see. Now, did you, the reason we talk about those rates for anybody that's not seen us before, and if they're watching on a replay, which is what it would be, and that's what we expect, is that it has gone from super volatile to being settled. Is it a little high? I would have to say, in my world, probably yes. But it's not nearly as volatile as it has been in the past. And that's the reason we bring that up every week, even though there's not big changes, which is a good thing. Everybody wants lower rates, but we're just bringing the idea of stability. That's the reason we bring that up every week. Is that fair?
That's fair.
Okay. But I've got questions for you. Did you, and I'm Rodney's not prepared for this question. I mean, meaning that I didn't talk to him about it beforehand. Have you heard about the Jamie Dimon comments for his annual letter to the shareholders?
Yes, I actually seen them. I think I've read most of them, and he's been on this path for a minute. It's not the first time he said that he thinks that we could be at 8%. He's been on this path for a minute that that the worst may not be over with. Like, we could continue to see, due to the inflation, and now everybody's bringing up the government spending, how they're just, what is it? I don't exactly know the terminology, but I think they're just at some point there could be nobody lining up to buy these bonds that the government's selling. Like, they're just selling, selling more money and more money, and it's caused the inflation. So, and
I mean, and there's discussions, and I think that this was probably in his letter, maybe not, but there have been discussions of the Fed not cutting rates, and I mean, that's been floating around now for a minute, last few days, I would say. The only reason I bring that up is it's another week, it's another train wreck of a different flavor and everything. And still, yet I look outside my front door and everything seems to be fine.
Well, yeah, I don't. Now, are you saying when you don't think Feds might cut, like they're not going to cut this time, or they're not going to cut until
this year? I've been hearing, scuttlebutt, call it for that. Shows my age a little bit. That they've been having discussions of, and I think Jamie mentioned it, that inflation is still a little bit higher than what they want. That it would be counterintuitive to lower the rates, because that would get money flowing fast again and heat things up, which is the opposite of what they're trying to do, right? And I mean, everybody seems to be, and we were talking about this months ago, which doesn't mean it was a huge revelation, but it means we're paying attention, that what a lot of people are doing, and you see it everywhere, they're waiting for the Fed to cut rates before they act, whether it's buy a house or sell a house, whatever. There's a lot of waiting going on.
Yeah, I think there's, we could be more to that. Earlier in the year, everybody was talking, there's going to be several rate cuts this year. And I think
I've heard 3 to 5. We made bets.
We bet our normal 25 cents that it's going to be more than 3 or something like that. But now we're creeping into June, and we haven't had our first one yet. So that's it's definitely not looking favorable for my prediction of 300 rate cuts. I think
312, but nobody's. Yeah. I'm not counting. Yeah, I didn't keep. It's just, we knew there's a lot of stuff that has to happen. There's a lot of stuff that has to happen for rates to get cut. There's a lot of things that have to go right, So, but today's show, here's what I'm trying to, when you see my face get bright like that, it's because I've got a web page that's like all white. I don't have dark mode on it. What I want to continue to cover, and I hope Rodney's okay with it, I think he is that there's a lot of news out there in terms of real estate. You bet. There's a ton of stuff. Like, I was reading an article the other day one of the most important things moving forward, one of the most important elements of the market is going to be young men not buying houses because they're in their 40s and still staying with their parents. And that's going to happen. I mean, it's articles like that. Is that interesting? For about a second. What we're dealing with here, in my opinion, and I'm not Philip and Wendy coming into town. I'm glad to see that. Yeah, I'm worried I'm going to lose my bet.
Yeah,
see that?
Been on our quarter bet too.
If anybody's watching, we're just, we're not really betting. The gentleman's bet. But it's the NAR stuff that's got in every corner of real estate, it's the NAR settlement and what's happening. And I cannot get enough of it. And it doesn't mean that I love it. But those are the questions that have to be answered. The young men that are staying at home, yeah, so what? I mean, if that's what they're doing and that's what they have to do, God bless America. I don't see that having as much of an impact. So it's going to start here. I don't know where to start. Did you pick up that link that I sent you about the DOJ?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
You want to start there or with luxury?
I like the DOJ. The DOJ.
Okay.
Go ahead and do that one.
All right, let's do that one. Here's the deal. And if you're looking for bullet points on this, I'm not your guy, but I am telling you this. The appeals court is going to allow the DOJ to reopen its investigation into the National Association of Realtors. Here's why that's a big deal. Back in 2020, the DOJ Antitrust Division agreed to a settlement after investigating trade group NAR listing and agent compensation policies. The settlement proposed at the time included requirements for NAR to boost transparency and broker commissions and stop misrepresenting that buyer broker services are free. We've talked about that for years. I won't go into it. However, the DOJ, under new leadership in this Biden administration, withdrew the settlement in July 21, stating that the terms of the agreement prevent regulators from continuing to investigate certain association rules that they feel harm buyers and sellers. Got any thoughts so far, Rodney?
No, you're doing good. I got one, but I'm going to get to it when you get there.
Okay. So NAR filed a petition in September 21 to set aside or modify the DOJ probe into the trade group. In late January 23, the District Court for the District of Columbia, Trump appointee, ruled in favor of NAR, stating the earlier settlement terms were still valid, allowing the investigation to continue, would take away the benefits NAR had negotiated in the original settlement. So they had got a deal, getting some ideas that were settled. The DOJ appealed that ruling in March, filed its first brief, and the investigation into NAR by the DOJ and ensuring appeal is not the only legal battle. Okay, so here's the deal. The appeals court has reversed that. So they're going to let the DOJ come after us. I'm going to say us because I'm on that team, NAR, again. Okay, hit me.
Well, I'd listened to the Greater Nashville Association of Realtors / they had a speaker, and that speaker was he from MLS or was he from just the Greater? I forget what his name was. It was the one, I think, Terry DeSantis.
What?
Did you say bald guy?
Yeah, was he a bald guy?
I don't look at people's hair, man. I mean, look at my hair, Andy. I'm bald.
I didn't mean that as a bad way.
You know what I'm saying? If he looked like Sasquatch or somebody, or, the Geico guy, I understood.
I'm not just, it's a beautiful bald head. I'm like 2 minutes away from one. So
I don't remember what he looked like, but I'll just say this. It was
okay.
The couple. First of all, I'm not surprised the DOJ is. A week ago, I'd have been surprised, but today I'm really not surprised because from the call that I was on, they had basically, in my opinion, the settlement was that the shared commission, and I will say this, the shared commission part is dead. It is gone. It is gone, gone. That's one of the things that DOJ had a problem with, right? They had a problem with the buyer. They're going to do two things. They're going to make sure the buyer knows what he's paying for the buyer services, buyer rep agreement.
Mm-hmm.
And the other one is that they can't discuss shared commissions in MLS. It's no longer in there. They're removing in MLS for buyer broker commissions. But all they've done is added 2 buttons that says the seller will pay concessions, or the seller will consider concessions in the contract. So basically, they didn't do anything. I mean, it's going to come from a different spot, but that the commission piece, once the MLS puts something in there where the seller can say that they're either going to pay something for closing costs or seller concessions, or they'll negotiate for it, that is, basically saying we'll negotiate commissions for your buyer.
Correct. Okay.
So I don't see, that being, so if all they're doing is changing the terminology of a box in MLS, the DOJ is going to get back involved. That's the way I look at it.
Oh. Yeah.
I mean, it was like, I was like, goodness gracious. That was a slick response to a huge lawsuit. And I'm like, that those 2 boxes in the MLS, when the seller marks that, there's like we talked about before, there's no need for a buyer's rep to call a seller's rep and say, hey, what are you paying? Because it's in the MLS.
Well, but that's not completely accurate. That's partially accurate. What they're offering is concessions, but is not specific to buyer agency.
Right.
So they could be offering some of the concessions for closing costs or whatever. Right. Anything. That's right. Still, the deal has to be the trick. The whole trick to this thing. The whole trick to this thing is how are the customers, how's the American public going to interpret this stuff? Because people, and rightfully so, and there's no guardrails on this conversation. There's just none. There's people, and I'm going to show you some of this stuff. It's turned into my favorite things. I'm looking for situations in real life, how people are responding, that it's like, this is a bigger deal than maybe, some people would like to blow it off. It's not. It depends entirely on how the population, the consumers, the home selling, buying public, how they interpret this stuff. Because there's going to be a group, like there is, humans, they don't like conflict. Okay, it's 6%, that's fine. I mean, that's a personality thing, okay? 6% is fine. Then you got the type A personality because I'm not paying, and they'll come after you.
Right.
So categorically, personality-wise, there's going to be, you bet type A is going to be one thing, and then the no conflict people are going to be an entirely different set of people. That's the deal. And as we move forward, as people break ground on, again, everybody wants to save money. And as you start to hear stories about, well, I got him to negotiate down to 0.25 commission, whatever, I'm making that up, but it'll happen. Then that's what people are going to jump on the bandwagon. I don't mean to go on, but that's where the rubber meets the road, is not only how we represent it, and stop me anytime, Rodney, we're being told as professionals, it's our job, and it's always been our job, to represent our value in to the consumer. But up till and still to this day, it's always been negotiable, but it has been considered a seller cost. And so the buyer was like, well, that's representation I'm paying for, but not directly. It's coming out of the whole basket of money. So I'm good with it. Well, now that they're responsible, it's changing the rules. There's going to be people that are buying houses not being represented. There's going to be people buying houses not represented and getting a raw deal. That's going to happen. It's going to happen. And people are going to start getting sued because of that. It's going to be different. This is the last thing I'm off that for a second.
I'm gonna get you back on it. So
okay, but it says in this article, it says, and this is an interesting thing. After today, behind the facade of its promise to close the investigation, the government can lure a party into the false comfort of a settlement agreement. I agree. We were like, oh, glad that's over with. Take what it can get and then reopen the investigation seconds later. That's dirty pool.
Well, here's I'll add something to that. The part of the agreement that I found out was a lot of people already expected the DOJ to kind of balk at it. At the heart of the problem was the the shared commissions, and in the new proposed agreement or the lawsuit, there was still, and you can help me on this, it called it an individual broker selling to an individual buyer's agent can still share commissions. And so I didn't know if that meant like there was a one person company and in another one person company. How else are they going to call those individual brokers and individual buyers agents versus just how do they call them individual, and that separates them from just a regular benchmark selling to Keller Williams or whatever.
Where did this come from? I'm sorry.
The part of the lawsuit, it was the GNAR thing. Part of the lawsuit is there's still a provision where there's an individual broker and agent can still share commissions. But it called them like an individual versus that was the only terminology I've seen. And they even pointed out that this is the heart of the problem. Like this little provision, although it doesn't pertain to very many people, is subject to being, because they kind of just said, hey, this is why we got in trouble. And this is in our new agreement. So they kind of, I guess the guy said, kind of expected the DOJ to say something about that or have his say about it.
I haven't seen anywhere where clear cooperation is. I mean, that seems to be the battle to me. I mean,
but it made it seem like it was, I don't know, like an individual versus a company.
As framed by the parties, this is what it says in the article, and it's the legalese. As framed by the parties, the issue before us is narrow. DOJ argues only that the plain language of the closing letter does not bar it from reopening its investigation and issuing a new CID, I don't know what that is, regarding the participation rule and clear cooperation policy. That seems to be what they're still attacking. That's what they're attacking. Any way you slice it, I'm confused. The only thing I know is how it's going to be separated starting in July. And none of us is clear on how that'll work. That's the catch. You don't know how that's going to work, and there's 1.5 million people going, I don't know what to do exactly.
Right. Yeah. It's Yeah, it's weird, when I'm, I was, if people start talking to you now about, about agents and stuff, and it's like, you know, it, it, this is the biggest change. They're going to get the MLS worked out. Like, and for if you think about this, Andy, for a seller outside the MLS,
Yeah,
these rules don't apply.
they don't apply.
They don't apply to basically to a seller. They don't apply except whatever you put in MLS. It's an MLS change, and that's what the NAR. I mean, it's kind of crazy, but the DOJ knows what NAR can control. They control the MLS. They don't. You know what I'm saying? So it's like you all these procedures can only affect MLS. So
Let me here's an interesting thing. And this is the last bit of this article, and I found this to be interesting because when I read this, and you may not have been surprised, and maybe I wasn't surprised either, but it's like, oh God, you know, I'm tired, I'm tired, already tired. Here's what the last few sentences of this article says, and I thought it was kind of revealing. In a statement emailed to the Wall Street Journal, the head of the Department of Justice Antitrust Division said it was committed to fighting to lower the cost of buying and selling a home. That's all of a sudden their mandate. Here it is, the comment. Real estate commissions in the United States greatly exceed those in any other developed economy, and this decision restores the Antitrust Division's ability to investigate potentially and unlawful conduct by National Association of Realtors that may be contributing to this problem, Assistant Attorney General Jonathan Cantor wrote. $1,000 said he sold a house and now he feels like he's ripped off, so he's pissed. And the other thing that I'm saying is why are we all of a sudden comparing our business in this country to other countries and calling this, I'll just say, outrageous, right? We saw a chart the other day. This is what they're charging in England and Ireland, Scotland.
yeah, yeah,
God bless America.
yeah. I mean, I hear you. I mean, we went through this with the Dodd-Frank Act in 2009, maybe something like that. They come in and they cut mortgage commissions that they're like, it's these two industries right now are the at the time mortgage. I thought mortgage was the only industry in America that they ever come in and tried to control how they were paid, and now it looks like DOJ seems to have their interest. That's a clear statement by that guy. Basically, he's wanting to. He thinks realtors make too much money, and they're trying to figure out a way to cut it.
And
I mean,
they're gonna jack you up.
yeah.
And
I mean,
to be fair, trickle down. I can't imagine that this impact on us is going to have an impact on the mortgage industry. Trickle down. Yes, no.
yeah. I think there's going. I think it's like the biggest problem I see is if I had to project right now, it'd be just the when a buyer doesn't have great representation. It definitely will affect a lot of the mortgage companies out there of how fast we get our documents, who we get them from, are they correct? You know, buyers agents are different than listing agents. They're two different roles, and the paperwork documentation are different. And when people feel like they're not getting paid for one side, they don't do the other work. That's what I'm more concerned about is a customer experience.
Oh yeah.
I mean, can you imagine? I mean, dealing with a new construction person for a year, them in you know what I'm saying? It wouldn't be nice.
Here's a little peek behind the curtain, and I don't think I think this is okay. As a buyer's agent, and that's what I've been most of my career. That's where I land. Plenty of listings, but mostly buyer. When I have clients that are sometimes a little bit a little less responsive. Could be work, could be whatever. I'm the one that has the relationship with those guys up front. Generally speaking, that's the way that works. Well, 99.5% of the time. And if they're a little hard to communicate with and stuff, it's been frequent where the lender's going to say, hey, can you give me a hand? I'm having trouble getting the documentation I need to close their loan.
Yeah.
I mean, the impact is if they don't communicate, they don't get to close. So they bring me in to kind of say, hey. Hey.
Yeah, and that's not even good. I'm more concerned about, like, if there's any kind of issues with inspections, and now you're dealing with one person. I might as well, me and the customer or the buyer might as well call the seller directly and deal. You know what I'm saying? It's like there's not very much go between right there.
Yeah, it's going to be, well, I mean, here we go. Here we go. So let's talk about, are you done with that topic so far?
Yeah, I think the DOJ is going to keep tweaking it until they like it. I mean, their government interference is off the charts right now. So
yeah, and I'm telling you that last, I'm so uncomfortable with. I'm really uncomfortable with that.
It just tells you what his intentions are.
Clear as a bell. Clear as a bell. The next one, and this will go quick. Real estate commission settlement may shift the luxury market. Well, now this is an article by it's called Mansion Global, so you can tell what their target market is. It's mansions. And what they're saying is simply they go through the whole thing, the 418, the lawsuit, and all that kind of stuff, but they get to the the depth of the article here, and it says, whoops, that's not the one I want. There we go. It says why the luxury market is different. It says, though consumers sometimes assume the standard commissions are set at 6%, which they're not, split evenly between buyer's agent and listing agent, commissions have always been negotiable. This is true. In the luxury market, buyers and sellers have been more likely to negotiate commissions because stakes are higher at that level. The properties themselves have a higher value, and the transactions are typically more complicated, so you need experienced support. Now, this is, I think it's them painting the picture. I think that they're serving themselves by that article.
Well, you think so?
If there was an article,
like, I want to tell you something. I've done a, if you give, no offense, but if you give anybody with a very high net worth, typically, requires less paperwork. Not requires less paperwork, but you can make and use one statement instead of three, and they have less credit issues, things like that. Than a first-time home buyer. That's a much more with some kind of program on top of it for state product or something. That's much more difficult loan to originate, process, and close than say $1 million loan or whatever. With a regular guy W-2 that makes a ton of money and has a ton of savings. So yeah, it's very self-serving.
I'm glad you saw it that way.
I don't know what they're saying though, because and help me with this, because what I'm hearing is people saying in this luxury market, I'm hearing more agents say these are easier for me because they think the clients are they think their buyers, they're going to sign the buyer's rep agreement at 3% and they can pay that out of pocket. And I'm like,
I've heard
I'm like, I want to see the first one do that. Because if somebody's going to buy a $2 million property, I just don't see them saying, like, that's what I think is the primary issue. Is I think that buyers agents who say, listen, I think the sellers are still going to negotiate pay. We're going to try to do our best to get it as always. Sorry, that's my computer going off.
Oh,
You hear that ding?
big time. Yeah. I
Yeah,
thought it was
that's
mine.
I can't stop it. People are texting me. So, anyways, the that's what I think. I think that the misconception that people are just going to sign those as the I think it's opposite. I
I
almost
think.
think that the first time home buyer will almost sign up and say, "I owe you 6,000," before somebody's saying, "I'm going to owe you 60,000."
I couldn't agree more. And folks, if you're listening to this, and if it seems like we're tilting me, if I'm tilting in a negative direction, I'm not. What I'm trying to do is I'm trying to be as realistic as possible so that when I move forward through this situation with everybody else, that I'm putting together a plan. My whole goal is to get on the other side of this and be more profitable than ever, work with the market instead of against it, because you can't just stand in the middle of the street going, I hate this rule, and that doesn't help.
Yeah,
Rodney and I are going to come up with a plan to work with human nature in this situation, which is self-serving. That's not a bad thing. I mean, that's what that's what the stock market is, self-serving for
yeah,
the greater good. How crazy is that? But I agree with Rodney 100% because here's the thing. Peek behind the curtain. I said all that for the peek behind the curtain. This isn't negative, it's just how it is. There are people trying to sell programs for real estate buyer's agents to make a lot of money by selling luxury properties. That's their market. Is they're trying to teach you how to sell luxury properties. I believe, this is just me, you show me somebody that owns a $1 or $2 million house or has the capacity to buy one. They're pretty savvy money wise. They're smart. And I'll also show you that is the person that's going to say, why does it cost me $240,000 for a $2 million house, but it only costs $30,000 for a $500,000 house? What's the math? Explain that.
yeah.
I don't. That's going to be a tough explanation, if you know what I'm saying.
The buyer's agents moving forward. Um, I think just in my opinion, I think that they've got to do a couple things. One, they've got to understand the laws. They got to understand exactly what is going on with the law, what they're trying to get rid of, and what MLS is doing to combat it. Like they want, so if they get that figured out, and then two, they're really going to, the hard part is they're really going to have to figure out a way that sells themselves, and they can articulate what I guess their service, because you're going to have to, when you get that sign, you're going to have to articulate your service better than they have in the past to be able to get somebody to sign a form saying they're going to be responsible for money.
Right.
That's just a big change, and it's a big, and it's hard. I mean, I'm looking at this thing saying, man, that's going to be a tough. You already do it, so it's tougher on me because I'm not like abstract thinker like a realtor kind of is, you know what I'm saying? And go in a house and see where the TV will go and all that stuff. I'm not like that. So y'all have already got this form signed. So it may be, I can't see it how easily it's going to happen, but I think just articulating the advantages of having one and the services that they do will be something new for an agent. And I think they've got to learn the rules, because I think a lot of agents don't learn the rules. They're kind of, I don't know, it's, I don't know what it is. They like showing properties more than they like studying, which is, typical for a seller, a mindset for a person who sells.
And in the end, the bottom line, and everything you said is exactly right, but in the end, in my opinion, it's going to be he who understands how to best serve the client. If it's a first-time buyer or $1 million buyer, how do you navigate one around the obstacle versus the others. It used to be a straight shot. If you buy this house, it's X amount of dollars and we go to closing. If you're a seller and you got $1 million house, if you sell the house, straight shot, we go to closing. It's the only thing you negotiate was the inspections, appraisals, and all that sort of stuff. There's more to it, but in essence. But now you've got this other wrinkle that it's 2 rules, but has been turned into 100,000 different variations of those 2 rules. I kind of wish I was exaggerating. I'm not.
And I think the hardest one is going to be for the, just the agents to get around the fact that, I mean, I just, Andy, and I maybe just because I'm old school, I've done it as a long time, but I see all these agents that I've known forever that when they take their clients out, it's like these clients or these agents, they're best friends, right?
Mm-hmm.
They're best friends. But at the end of the time, it's, she's calling this lady, the realtor friend, they made friends. And then a month later, I see them on Facebook going out to some little thing on Sunday together or something. They done, they become friends. So, but if I had to put that lady, the kind of couple people I'm thinking about in front of a room to go sell themselves, I don't know if that's going to turn out very well. But when they actually do the job, it's like they're great at, you know what I'm saying? It's like,
yeah, I do.
Doing a great job for the person. The people love them. They invest. But if the realtor can't articulate that, now they're going to be, now that same person may go from a great agent just to, who knows, just over this one change.
As soon as their best friend, and I'm not gonna go too far with this, but you have really made a good point that I didn't think of. You show me 2 people like her peas in a pod guy, they're best friends. You show me the one that's the client and says, I have to pay $8,000. Is there any other way to do that? All of a sudden, they're not going out to lunch.
Right. I mean, but at the end of the day, I think it's all going to be worked out. I think sellers are still going to participate in some fee. It's not going to be like it was. It's not. I mean, it's not.
I will go ahead. Sorry.
I think for real estate agents, you've just got to look at it like it's a home warranty. It is something that you've just got to negotiate, and it's in the contract. It's a fee that has to. It's a fee like every other fee, and we just got to figure out a way to get it in the contract. I mean, it's just like a home warranty. It's like anything else, and you just can't. Just the sellers have no say in it. I mean, you're going to make your offer based on whatever it needs to be, and however it needs to be structured for that buyer. And it doesn't matter what box is checked in MLS from the seller. And the seller just needs to look at the offer as it's presented.
And here's you're absolutely right. And the thing that I stand shoulder to shoulder with, well, you're side by side with you on would be the market's going to work itself out. I 100% agree with that. But it's going to be, I think I said this before, it's going to be a little bit of that sausage thing. It's
man. There's going to be 7,000 sausage makers.
There's going to be a lot of Jimmy Dean going on, man.
Yeah, and then there's going to be these people that want to hang on to the old way and try to chase the shared commission. It's just not going to work.
It's just not going to work.
Calling the agent like, "Hey, what can they do?" Blah blah blah. And you just need to abandon it. It's gone.
And there's going to be, and another thing you just have to kind of grow up being an adult about is there's going to be a lot what we in the industry, in real estate, we call them deals, and it sounds a little gauche, but that's what we call them, deals, transaction, but deals. There's going to be a lot of deals that in the old days would have been kind of a slam dunk that we're not going to be dunking them. I mean, if somebody can't afford the additional fees, it's not a slam dunk anymore. And I've got stuff to show you. Okay, we're down to the time. Let's see. Let's do 2 things.
Hey, before you move on, I want to point out that my man Philip never lets you slip on anything. And he called you out earlier in the show, which I appreciate that very much.
You mean about this?
And he said, so, yeah, he stepped in that, and yeah, I don't even remember what it was, but I like it.
Yeah.
And he also has this, do you think we are seeing the imminent end of NAR? Man, it was close. If there's no settlement, that definitely would be, but I don't think so, because at least the DOJ has somebody to hold in check to try to step out of their bounds of government control into the public sector again. So I think they need the NAR to do that.
Well, keep in mind that the NAR settlement excludes any of the companies that was $2 billion or more. They're not protected. The agents are, but the companies aren't. So you've got these $2 billion companies that are pretty pissed. And they're not NAR fans. And that's all I'll say about that.
Yeah. And they could, which is what, less than 10 companies or something like that?
Well, I don't know about the number of that. I've not researched that. I just know that there's some big hitters that are not fans. And, so you get enough individuals saying, we don't need those guys. The only thing holding us to them right now is the MLS participation, because they own a lot of the MLSs, for places that don't, out you go, so, but
even if you call it something else besides NAR, say NAR goes away and pops back up, nothing's going to, the commission sharing is gone. The government's taking, what I'm saying? It's not like this is going to pop away. It's NAR and then come back where they started at TAR and now we can commission share again. That's not going to happen.
I, for one, appreciate everything that they've done so far. I mean, I'm okay with NAR. I'm not politically minded in that. It's like, whatever, I've been with those guys, forever. But when you have some of the big hitters saying they're pissed, and that was the word they used, it makes you kind of pay attention. What are they going to do? How can they push back? There's probably something.
They couldn't have survived that settlement, though. They couldn't have survived it if they don't settle. I mean,
well, Encompass had to pay $57 million to settle it themselves. Home Services, which is owned by Warren Buffett, they're holding out because he's the third wealthiest man on the globe, right? Something like that. He's got resources.
Yes.
He can say, yeah, we can go party. Let's do that. So to finish up today, let's go do this. And this has become, I don't want to say my favorite, but it's the most revealing for me. Because when we're talking about the things that we've spoken of so far, it can be considered theory because these are news articles and it's in the Ethernet and it's, it's not in real life, so to speak. I'm here to tell you that there's real life responses, and let's do it this way. I'll show you. We can talk about these. First one. These are actual responses from people in my industry. The first one we're going to start with this is the White House. In addition, last week, the National Association of Realtors agreed for the first time that Americans negotiate lower commissions when they buy or sell their home. On a typical home purchase, that alone could save folks an average of $10,000 on the sale of a purchase. President Biden is calling on realtors to follow through on lowering their commissions to protect home buyers. What a sweetheart.
Yeah.
What a sweetheart.
I'll tell you what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna let that one float on down the river without me saying anything about it. All right.
I'd like to stay non-political myself, but I had to start there because every homeowner and home seller, or a home buyer and home seller, is listening to that and thinking, I can get a deal now, which is fine, but
Fortunately, he said enough to where people don't listen to him anymore.
so here we go. We're going to talk about, these are the things that are being posted. The confusion. This is what this is meant to highlight, the confusion. Here's a scenario. You have a VA buyer, so they can't pay commissions. You find a house, but the seller isn't offering a buyer agency commission. So your buyer makes a good offer, and part of the offer is the seller has to pay buyer's agency commission. Seller counters and removes the part where the buyer's agency commission gets paid. Buyer accepts the counter. Buyer's agent is out of luck. That's a great question. I don't have an answer.
Well, you're under one. Two things with problem with this one. One, a buyer's already supposed to have a signed agreement when they go into with somebody.
But if it's a VA,
VA, correct. It's theirs is already signed. It's a zero. That's what they're going to pay any buyer's agent on the face of the planet. And for every VA market, now I know there's veterans that buy outside of a VA market, so to speak, but I have. We'll see. It's going to come up. It's going to come up, but there's so many of these veteran markets where they pay all the commissions, all the closing costs and everything, and the veterans get in for zero. Yeah. I think veterans are good. I think veterans are going to be able to not worry about this at all.
You think it'll be fixed, is what you're saying?
Well, yeah, I think if a veteran has a buyer's agent, they're going to agree just like up front, like everybody else has agreed to. And so that veteran, is that realtor knows that they're either going to get it from the seller or they're not going to get nothing. I mean, because the veteran can't pay them.
Right, and that's
so. If you want to represent a veteran, you're going to have to take that chance, basically.
Isn't that right?
But see, I think to me, I would, because I think sellers are going to pay this 99 out of 100 times. And for people who's sitting there, people who's like, oh, I wouldn't want to I think that's where people are going to get, pick up some business, is by taking a chance on that. But I mean, who knows?
Interesting.
It's easy for me to say that.
Yeah, well, you're not signing up for zero.
Right, you're right. Yeah, I mean, but the government's already taken care of my pay, so they've already.
I wanted to bring this up because not everybody is considering what NAR is going. Female agents, how much time do you give yourself for makeup? I thought that was an important question.
What do you mean? Where did that come from? I don't know what that means.
It was in the same string of comments that we just looked at. The guy's talking about VA.
Wow. There you go.
It's how concerned she is about the market.
Yeah. Well, there you go. Yeah.
This one struck me. I've been a realtor for 18 years now. I'm tired and I don't want to chase sales anymore. What other career choices are out there to move into, since real estate is really all I know? Isn't that?
I hate that.
I'm telling you. Let me show you something. Let me show you something else. Did you have something to say about this?
Yeah, for I wish, for her, and I don't know if she's done this, but if she's done it for 18 years, by this time, she, honestly, chasing sales shouldn't be what she's doing. She should be just she should have enough people in her database that comes back to her in referral, kind of her own personal network of people. But I know it's harder to do that because, see, we have mortgage people have a bunch of technology where we can continuously get to talk to our past clients, but realtors don't have that. They have to self-source that stuff. So
yeah,
it's harder to do that.
But here, so I mean, I can feel this chick, but here's something else. You've just got to bear with me a second. I recorded this, and this was on, and it's a question. It was on the same thread. What's a good side hustle I can do while working in real estate? I'd love to make some extra income while things are slower. But this is what I recorded. Here was the response to that one question. 150 responses. And I wouldn't want to highlight any of them, but my point was, do you think this stuff isn't having an effect in the real world? Oh, God, look at that.
I think something about mortgages in there. I'm like, whoa.
And they're talking about DoorDash and, all the rest of it.
Yeah, it stinks, man. It's just, our business is cyclical, and that's just what it is. But it stinks that, people after 18 years, it should be the best time of her career. I hate that,
Well, and the only reason I bring that up is people are they're asking the question: do you think that the real estate agent, the pool of agents, is going to thin out? Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I don't know the realtor numbers. I think we're over 60% lost. Have left the business.
But here's the reason I bring all of that up, because read this next one. I think that this would be a slam dunk for me, but maybe not for everybody. Today, I had a new client ask me how much of my commission as a buyer's agent I would be willing to give back to him, which you can't. You'd have to come up after closing when he finds a house. He said he bought 4 houses before, and the agent made 2.5% and gave him this is the one I was thinking, and gave him 1.5% back after closing. I was so surprised. I didn't know how to answer. When I drove away, I was just appalled, thinking of how many responses I would have had. The reason I brought this, I think the reason I clipped this one, was this is the public starting to speak up about, hey, what's this deal? That's what this is. That's what this is.
Yeah, and 2.5%. Do the math on that for a second. He got 2.5%, and he gave that guy 1.5%, so he pocketed 1%. But at 2.5% commission, I mean, he's probably, he may have lost money with taxes.
Could have been. Yeah, could have been. But the point was, people are getting bold on you can't give money back.
Which is illegal anyways. If you got a mortgage, right?
Yeah,
like
right.
if you're buying it cash or whatever, there's no rules.
I didn't know that. I didn't know that. But okay. So here's an interesting thing. Open Door is refunding home sellers $62 million. Do you think that they're going to be hitting this hard? This is direct to the consumer for Open Door. Direct to the consumer. That's what they're seeing that. And they just settled a $62 million lawsuit for the government is saying that they rip people off. And here they are.
That's not even from that's like some government. I guess that's internet or something.
Open Door, yeah.
FTC versus like we've been talking about DOJ and NAR and
everything. Yeah. Federal Trade Commission. Yep. Here we go. I've always wondered, but never. I thought this was funny. I've always wondered, but never asked, why do we buy sellers a closing gift? Seriously, they hired us to do a job. We spent money on that job marketing, open house, whatever you do for your life. Why? And it makes me think of that couple you were talking about that's bipping around, going to lunch and stuff. Those guys. Okay, I'm almost done. Now this is the one I had mentioned originally that I was a slam dunk for this kid. I have a question. A friend of mine wanted me to list his $4.5 million home, wanted me to do it at 4%, split 50-50 because of this new NAR ruling. I tell him no, and I want to sit face-to-face conversation to discuss this. He literally ghosts me for days, moves on to find another agent to do 4%. He gave a 1% of a $4 million. I would have taken that deal.
I mean, that's see that you know that's the thing. Sometimes it gets me. People get stuck on percentages versus money, and we all face it. Like my company faces it all the time. I'm like, I would rather make money, not a higher percent. You know, but that's like I mean, you know, if he's got $4 million listings and all this other stuff, I mean, I don't know, but it's everything's a negotiation.
It's $100,000.
You know, something would be better than nothing, you know, to me. But
20 times 4 is 80, and half of that is, it's 100. Would have been a pretty nice. I would have called you from Bimini, is what I would have done. Yeah, we're good. Couple more.
Hey, sound.
Yeah. Now, here's this person, and this is her saying it's the buyers waiting until the market crashes again. Okay, funny. Here's the same person. That's the same person. And I bring that up. That seems a little harsh. But the fact is, I wanted to put into light that it's affecting people in a real way, what's going on. So, I don't know that. Probably not the happiest note.
No, I like those. I like those stories that end like that because that's what's honestly it's
going on.
It's you don't remember the 5.5% $3 million deal that went smoothly. I love these comments right here. Yeah, like one guy won't take 160,000 to list and sell. You know. And somebody else is looking for an Uber Eats job, you know.
Yeah, it's crazy. But I guarantee you next week's going to be more of the same. We didn't even talk about the jobs report, which came out last week, right? Came out good. But so how can we happy this thing up, Rodney?
Hey, I think it already is happy. I like I think we go back down here to answer Philip's question. How much time do you give yourself, Andy, to put on makeup? And once you answer that, I think we're good.
Okay. Your next career should be real estate investing.
He's on point today. I mean, he's Philip.
Salute.
He was he was our host with the most today, and what a great, you know, honestly, that's great advice. You know, start your real estate investment career. You know,
and I'll put together a couple of TikToks on get ready with me. You know, I'll show you my whole routine.
We're okay. Hey, we made fun of you. It's all good. You don't have to do any of that.
Okay.
Even more.
Philip, Wendy, God bless you. Glad you were here. That was fun today. Angie, I know you're going to be listening in later too. Rodney, thanks for everything. Any final thoughts?
No, appreciate everybody. Good to chat and keep fleshing this thing out. We're going to have many more topics on this and conversations on it.
Absolutely. Yeah, we'll keep after it. See you guys. Bye-bye.